Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host. Tonight's topic covers one of the items in the Narcissist bag of tricks. Inspired from a line out of Lundy Bancroft's book from the series about breaking up with the abusive person. Breaking up with an abuser can be very hard to do. In fact, leaving a non-abusive partner is generally easier, contrary to what many people believe. Here's the key line. Few abusers readily allow themselves to be left. When they feel a partner starting to get stronger, beginning to think for him or herself, slipping out from under the domination, the abusive people move to their end game. Few abusers readily allow themselves to be left. What does that insinuate? Power, control. In case you may be dealing with such an abusive person, notice how Bancroft had said they will not allow themselves to be left. Well, the way that looks, let's say you met a person and you hung out a few times, but then you start to see little evidences of red flags. You see inconsistencies. You find some lies. If you follow other advice I've given, it's best to keep those thoughts to yourself. But I know some of us can't resist. If they claim one thing and you see the opposite, I'm naturally going to be saying, wait, I thought you said you didn't eat meat. You're a vegetarian. Why did you have that big hamburger just now? But it doesn't do you any good. But if you're in the beginning stages with such a creature, you'll notice the moment you begin pulling away, or not returning phone calls, or spacing the time out that you see each other again, all of those will be duly noted by this creature. Because this creature's goal is to dominate your entire life. So if you are talking to it every few minutes of the day through a text message, and then all of a sudden you stop, there'll be some response like, well, I guess you're too busy for me now. Or they may even step over boundaries and say things like, well, something else must be going on with you. Who is it? Keep in mind you just barely met this person. And if you're an empath, you're going to get the impression this person's hurt. So then you're going to feel the need to say, oh no, nothing's happening. But they will be very persistent. We've covered in previous videos how they pay attention to every tiny detail. So even if on, let's say, your first date, something happened and you felt open enough to say, I really enjoy this song or something, those little sweet nothings will be brought up at this moment as well. Especially when this creature's desperate, because it knows you're on the way out. And it can't have that because, remember, power and control. When you're dealing with an abusive, narcissistic, covert monster, if things end, they're going to end on its terms. Heaven forbid yours. So if you start to pull away, they won't say, oh, you're not going to leave me. They will lay on the charm. They will bring up those romantic things that you expressed interest in. They will pull out every trick in the book to try to influence you to change your mind. And you may be tempted, in this case, to think, wow, this person must really like me. But keep in mind, if you don't know this person very well, and they're acting like this, or they're being desperate, leaving flowers and cards in your front door, fake. They are desperate to keep you because they've probably given up another potential source of supply to work on you. And if you've seen them for several weeks, they don't want their investment to go to waste. Never mind that you have no idea it's a psychopathic or a narcissistic creature. That doesn't matter. That's all fair in this person's world. But they will not let you get away easily. So if you start getting a bad feeling and you say nothing and just withdraw, that'll be drawn attention to. Or if you say, look, I don't think we should see each other, then you'll be given the guilt trip fake of, I can't believe after all I did for you, you're just going to end it like that? And they'll act like this poor, sweet little thing that only cares for you and you only. The thing is, it's fake. What looks like devotion and desperation for you is not that at all. They don't want to lose the investment that they've been working on. They have been desperately trying to get you, and one of the things I've noticed which is sick with these people, let's say you're a person who's all for honesty and openness. Well, this creature's the complete opposite. And for some strange reason, this type of creature gravitates towards those like you. It's like you have an insurance policy because you're honest and you're a good person, so you're not going to betray them, even though they're entitled to do the whole horror to you, but that's kept secret. and will be covered. And they'll mirror you and act like, well, I would never lie to anyone either. Oh, we're just alike. Yet you'll uncover lies here and there, and that's probably what will inspire you to say, look, I don't think we should do this anymore, because it's inconsistent. And then if you push it further, if they ask what's wrong, and you say, well, you told me you were honest, and I uncovered 3 lies yesterday that you told. And of course, we all know that a real person who believes in honesty won't have these conditional, retarded excuses such as, oh, I am usually honest. I only lied to my mother that day because of la la la. Oh, and I only lied to you that other day because la la la, but I never lie. And it just sounds retarded, but they expect you to buy it. And if you say no, 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 then they'll give you the hard time. And then they'll say, well, you must think you're perfect then. It's like, no, I never said I never lied. You did. I'm holding you to your word. But you cannot reason with these people. You cannot rationalize and say things like that to them and expect any kind of good results, because they are in a fantasy world. They're not in reality. They are trying to create this fairy tale romance with you based on no experience, because they cannot connect to other people at all. They can pretend to. They can listen and copy and mirror, but it's fake. None of it's natural, which eventually comes out. If you do have the displeasure to stick around for a long time, you'll eventually realize you're dealing with a pretty much empty, hollow shell that's got a monster inside that's copycatting you. But just as a warning, be aware. They'll try to be extra charming if you try to pull away. And keep in mind, if they really respect you and really care for you, and you make that decision to step away, well, then they should be honoring that, because they care so much about you. They want to make sure that you're happy. But beware of the ones who are persistent. They show up at your car, they show up at your front door, they show up anywhere they know you're going to be, and you may mistake that for devotion and think, maybe I'm making a mistake. You're not. Especially when it's doing boundary crossing things like showing up at your workplace at the front door where you walk in. That's stalking. And sure, it might look cute, it might look sweet. Keep in mind the reasons for your decision, if you've made such a decision, to back off, back away, because there's only more where that came from. The red flags don't lie. And I know it's very common for many of us to recognize straight out a red flag, but think, oh, I recognize that flag. I can overlook it. Maybe that's just the way this person is. I'll give it another chance. And pretty soon, you're yanked down into the evil labyrinth of psychopathy, sociopathy, or toxic sickness, toxic destruction. So, just a few words of advice. They're not in love. They cannot feel love. They can say the words. They can copy others who say the words, but they do not feel it. They pretend, and you're better off without it. If it behaves in these inappropriate manners, that's a sign you're dealing with a monster, a toxic monster. Flee ASAP.
Hi, darling. I am the Narcopath, and I know you want me.
How do I know that you want me? That's easy, because everybody wants me, and pretty much everybody's asking. So if you haven't, today is your lucky day. Oh!
I am the Narcopath, and I'm here to give you some more confessions.
I know I don't need to remind you about what happened with our little failed relationship. In a nutshell, though, for those who don't know, I told you you were the one. I told you I wanted you forever. You moved me into your home. I took advantage of your bank account. After a few years, I just lickety-split left. I told you I wanted to be alone, but you shortly found out that I'd found another partner to be with. So, in your all's words, I discarded you. Well, yes, I did. The new partner was new, was fresh. The new partner had more money than you. But I know you were wondering how I'd pull off such a feat. Look, I know on the surface the facts are, I told you you were the one. We lived together, we were married. Behind your back, I found someone else. Gave you a hard time every day if I even thought you took a second glance at another chick in public. That's just how I am, I'm jealous. But regardless, I did totally discard you. Didn't look back. Didn't talk to you for the longest time. And was happy posting, smiling, kissy face images all over social media, hoping you would see what you're missing out on because you have something wrong with you. Well, actually you don't, but I wanted to make that impression, so you'd think you had something wrong with you, because I was on top of the world. I had a new love. But I know you probably wondered, well, how on earth could I have been successful at doing that after what I had just done to you? Well, honey, in my world, you are a minuscule minority, and whatever you have to say, I've already coached anyone new I meet, and the people I already knew, that you're crazy, and that you were delusional and making up stuff in your head, and that's why I had to leave you, and I just happened to find another Mr. Right along the way. They all were cheering me on after I told them how horrible you treated me. Never mind, you only treated me terribly when you found out I was lying and cheating, but they didn't need to know any of that.
And you're probably not going to let me off the hook since we're discussing this particular situation.
You remember after I had dumped you, after I had cut off all contact with you, you got a random message from me, acting like nothing had happened, saying, baby, want to spend the night with me? So at that point, the new one started to become skeptical of me. He went through my phone and saw some boys' messages that were a little suggestive, which I tried to tell him that's just the way those boys are. He didn't buy it and he got mad. He actually left me and went home to his parents. That's why that one night, out of the blue, I contacted you and just pretended like nothing had happened and said, do you want to spend the night and do it? And of course, like a fool, you did. Well then, honey, you deserve it. You should have known better. But then, of course, you were heartbroken, so you said, before I blocked you. When you found out just a day later I was back in the new guy's arms, I successfully convinced him that he was wrong, and he believed it, and he actually cried and apologized. Life is great when you're the narcopath. You should try it sometime.